on Coleman. Count on Coleman. If your world is looking strange, you can count on Coleman for change.
Hello and welcome to the Coleman Cares podcast, where we do our best to educate the public. I am your fill-in host today, Rasha Williams, filling in for our hard-working host, Councilwoman Carolyn Coleman, who could not be here tonight. Why? Because she's doing what she does, feet to the pavement, doing things for the community. But anyway, we're diving in to one of Baton Rouge's most anticipated events, the 9th annual Baton Rouge Soul Food Festival. And here today to tell us about it is none other than the infamous, world-renowned founder, Mr. Henry Turner. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Turner.
Thank you so much for inviting.
Yes, so let's get started with the basics. So for those who don't know who the great Henry, and I find that hard to believe, but there may be people out there who don't know who you are. So could you please introduce yourself and tell us about, how you're connected to the Baton Rouge community? I think you got a little connection there.
Yeah, I'm, born and raised Baton Rouge. I've been a musician all my life. And I've had the opportunity to work in the media a little bit and do some things as well. But I think touring around the country and in and out of the country and then coming back and establishing some good community events, helped the community know who I am. There's a whole generation that's trying to figure out who I am. Anybody under 40 is trying to figure that out. But I think with the community TV and all the stuff that goes on and all the shows, that happen, I think in my listening room is kind of, keeping them abreast of what's happening.
Okay, well, in that vein, the Henry Turner Jr. listening room, it's pretty much described as the last blues live music juke joint here in Baton Rouge. How does the festival kind of preserve that specific cultural heritage?
Well, with the listening room, you have a multicultural mentality behind it. First of all, it's my own personal black box theater. It's my idea of, I always would like to have had this big, huge theater and, and do all these really cultural things in it. But, on my budget, I was able to take an old juke joint and turn it into my black box, and henceforth, while the walls are black and the logo's black and white and all that stuff. But it serves as a purpose, more of a headquarters for all the stuff that we do. Because the nonprofit, the mission of it is to educate, and to train and to show everybody what to do to keep, these cultural things alive. And blues is definitely a cultural music. It's one of the oldest forms of music. So we use that as our as our palette, as our, canvas, that we operate from. So we let everything feed back into it, and it gives a broad spectrum of, the things that we do, because all music forms are welcome there. And we have these showcases that are incredible. We bring people from all over the world to perform there, and anybody's touring 55, 10, I-20, they make it over, so we get people from Nashville, Austin, Houston, Atlanta, Florida, all just anywhere that's music, places that produce solid musicians, they end up at the listening room and showcasing,
Well, I've often heard it said that music is that universal language that kind of unites us. And I'm looking at the lineup this year, and it is stacked. You have blues, soul, R&B, gospel, Christian, you have a nice variety. How did that come to be? And tell me a little bit about what festival goers can expect to hear.
So the music lineup, is definite always because, the subject is soul, soul food, soul music. What comes from soul music? Where did soul music come from? You know, it started with Negro spirituals and gospels and all that, and then leading into the crossover stuff and all the things that became, you know, commercial soul music. You know, what was the big controversies of people like, you know, Ray Charles? You know, oh, he's taking the church music and putting blues on it. You know, he's talking about his girlfriend, and it sounds like the same stuff he was playing for Reverend Raymond. You know, so that's the idea. The idea is all things soul and all things soul music. So, you know, it keeps it in that diaspora. You know, and that's the format for it. And we try to keep it that way. We try to introduce traditional forms and new forms if we can, and we try to keep it all based around that theme.
I think that's critically important because music is something, it's one of those things that you think you may have heard it all, but there's always something out there that you haven't. It's constantly evolving. So it's refreshing to hear you share that perspective. Now, one of the things I know is a fan favorite is the Tina Turner tribute. By Lisa Harris, who's returning this year, right? Yes. She is returning this year, right? Okay, so what do you think it is that makes her performance a fan favorite in Baton Rouge?
Well, what I think is the fascination of Tina, you know, Turner herself, and the fact that Lisa is so enthralled by creating, you know, that energy that Tina Turner brought to the table. So it's almost like, you know, a selfless act. It's like giving up yourself to be somebody else that people never got a chance to really get that close to. So I think that's what keeps it, you know, relevant. You know, and that's what makes her relevant in terms of what she does. And trust me, she does a lot more than Tina. But for Baton Rouge, I think, you know, in order to get to see Tina when she was alive, you'd have to be at a major, you know, event at a major venue. And she came to Baton Rouge in the early days, and played some small venues, but once it passed the Phil Spectrum stage, she never came back. So, so this is like a serious treat for people who only saw it on TV. Generations, you know, they only saw it on TV.
That's right. So if you are someone who is a Tina Turner lover, if you love that type of music, this is a treat that you definitely don't want to miss. I understand that you guys are also having a pre-party. We know in Louisiana, people party. You got the pre-party, the party, the after party, the after party. But tell me about this pre-party on May 21st that, from what I understand, correct if I'm wrong about any of it, is going to feature a soul food buffet.
Right.
And music at the listening room.
Of course. Well, the pre-party is always like a small taste of the big event. So, you know, the people that are in town already, that, you know, for the performers, some of the chefs and people, they're coming by and hanging out and, you know, and doing their thing. And then for us, it's an idea to revisit the past. You know, for instance, one of the chefs, Chef Inspired, he called me up a couple of weeks ago and he said, "Man, you gonna have any chitlins?" And I said, "Well," I don't know. I said, I mean, you know, because they're so expensive. And he said, "Oh man, I'm gonna bring a pot of chitlins. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna cook them and I'm gonna bring them, you know, to the pre-party." Okay, you know, we got this thing happening where Wesley is involved, a person you and I know in common, and we're sponsoring this thing that's going to be pork and beans and weenies. Right? Yeah, we're gonna go all the way back to pork and beans and weenies. You know, we go back and grab some things that was like big in the soul community. You know,
staples.
Yeah, in an era. You know, and sometimes we go back and grab it, bring it back. You know, so the pre-party is going to be full of those little kind of surprises. You know, so. And of course, they'll be able to get their booze on and all that stuff, you know, drinking and eating, and, you know.
So now, we're talking about the music and we're talking about the taste. This is a soul food festival, so let's get into it. One of the big things that you guys are having this year, right, is the competition. So from what I understand, you're going to have regional favorites,
Of course.
and I mean, of course, local favorites, but regional favorites from 6 southern states. That almost sounds like You know how we have the Battle of the Bands at the Bayou Classic?
Yes.
This almost sounds like the battle of the southern states, because you know they're always at it
Well,
over
what you
whose
got?
food is the best.
So this is what you got. You go down to Tennessee and you eat a piece of fried chicken and some potato salad or some mashed potatoes, and you say, "Oh, wow, this is really good." Then you go over to Florida and have the same menu, and it tastes totally different. But it is the same food. It just tastes different based on what spices are available, based on the type of influence the cook has, if they've been influenced by Native Americans, if they've been influenced by Africans, whatever. But it's still soul food. It's coming from, those kind of things. So that's the gist of it.
Well, there it still is a competition. And while it's different, there has to be a winner. Somebody has to be the best. So let me just ask you this, beyond just the taste and the presentation of the dish, tell me, I guess, the narrative behind the food and why the recipe is just as important itself.
Now, this is my personal belief. I believe that the competition is just an excuse for you to try a lot of different soul food from different areas of the country. That's what I believe personally. Now, because a person that eats bland food, they may taste some food from Georgia and say, "Oh man, this is great." But then a person that lives in Louisiana tastes that food and say, "Oh man, it ain't got no cayenne pepper in this. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I can't even taste or whatever." So but it gives you that excuse to try and look at the presentation that somebody's doing from the central area, so you can see where they're coming from, because they'll explain it to you what they're cooking and why and how it's made, and then you'll say, "Well, we don't even have that here. That particular spice we don't even use," or in Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia, Florida, everybody's doing something a little bit different, because they got something different to work with.
Well, when you look at it, like just Louisiana alone, when I try to describe it to when I travel and go other places, Louisiana is like its own little continent.
Well,
and we
13
have
different dialects.
exactly.
So that can say
and
like
so
that. One word saying 13 different ways.
You have gumbo in New Orleans, and it tastes completely different from what you'll have in Lafayette.
That's right, or Shreveport.
Right, and they're all good.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it depends on So, and I think a lot of that has to do, like you said, with the
What's
influences.
available. And who you're networking with.
So this year, there is a new addition, a mustard greens and cornbread eating competition. And I want to know where to sign up for that. As a matter of fact, can I do it online?
Yeah,
I'm gonna
you can. You
I'm gonna go
straight
ahead and
to
do
the
it right
site.
now.
soulfood.com, and you can get in the mix. That's going to be good, though, because, you have all of these different mindsets and, mentalities about mustard greens. A lot of people love mustard greens.
Yeah. So what inspired that particular lineup?
Well, for me, I thought it would be a gas, because when you go to these different soul food restaurants and you try their greens or whatever, all of them have a unique flair and flavor to what they do. Somebody might say, "I don't use any pork." Next person say, "Oh no, we got a big ham hock in this," and the next person might say, "I don't even put any meat in there. I just put a smoke in there." So you got all that kind of stuff going on, and I think that whatever the deal is, people like to eat a lot of it when they eat it. So let's just see how much they can eat.
So you have things that people love. You got food. You have a variety of it, and you have a variety of music. But there's another thing that people love that is an element to this festival. Free 99. The festival is free to the public. And it doesn't get any better than that. And it's held at the public library, the East Baton Rouge Parish main library on Goodwood. Tell me, you're having it at this venue where families frequent. Why is it important to keep this a family-friendly event that's accessible to the public?
Well, first of all, the history behind soul food. When you look up the definition, it'll talk about food that was thrown away that people took and turned into a delicacy. And that's basically how soul food started in the South. It was just people creating something out of nothing, what other people thought was nothing anyway. But when I looked out there and I saw the void for soul food, and what I mean by that is soul food restaurants, we getting talked out of it because it's not good for your health, blah, 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 blah. But then at the same time, here come another group of people coming in and buying these fast food gas stations and all that, and they go find somebody and put them in the kitchen, they cook some soul food, and then all of a sudden our people are going in there to get soul food. So it's just driving another economy through a lot of different types of people. So my thing was, let's reintroduce this product to the marketplace. Let's put it back in the hands of the people that did it. Where are those people? They don't have restaurants and shops anymore, but the cooks are out there, right? And if you can make it free to the public and make it a social thing, right? That's what I wanted to do. And then choosing the library as a community partner, because when I thought about community places and meeting places, where is everybody comfortable at? Where are the children comfortable? Where are the elders comfortable? And then when you're doing something downtown, like we started on the riverfront. We grew out of that park so fast. We had people like the River Center upset. We had the USS Kid upset because there was too many of us doing too many things, and it just wasn't conducive to. They couldn't even get in their parking lot, stuff like that. And then the issues became parking. It's like if somebody's 80 years old who really enjoy play the chitlins, or even though they ain't supposed to have them, they want them, but what do? Do you slow the traffic down to 5 miles an hour and drop them off out in front with their walker? Well, that became a problem because we had a problem with traffic, we had a problem with the police, we had a problem with the mayor, the city. Everybody was like, no, we can't really accommodate all that. My thing was put some 15-mile or 10-mile-an-hour, speed signs out there with some sandbags, slow the traffic down on River Road, let them come through and drop off people. No, you got to go to the library and park. We ain't no traffic. Okay, that's fine. Public library was like, hey, you know what? We got a huge parking lot in the front. We got one in the back and on the side. And we see the problems that you're facing, and we know they're not going to cater to you because the demographics are too old. They don't see those people as that viable. So it was perfect. So we just went there and stayed there.
And I think it's also critical because the library is a place of learning.
Absolutely.
And being a part of the festival, even though it's just an enjoyable experience, is also very educational. But I'm thinking about what you said about the change of, where it used to be and where it is now. This festival is already a national draw. Am I correct in saying that? People come from all over. What do you think it would take to make it an even bigger national draw? I think if people knew about it. Well,
let me say this. The local politics, festivals, and events. Visit Baton Rouge is a 50-mile circle around a city, right? Like visit Baton Rouge, visit New Orleans, 50-mile circle around their city. All right, so in order for something to be looked at as an international event or something that could outsource and bring in from way outside of Louisiana, it has to go through the Lieutenant Governor's office, right? And we've been trying to forge a relationship with the Lieutenant Governor, but I don't believe that they're open-minded enough to be interested yet. Now I think that they respect what we do. Visit Baton Rouge gives us ultimate respect, and they support us all the way. But we have not been able to open that door yet to get that happening.
Well, you heard it. If you're with the Lieutenant Governor's office or you know someone, they're invited to come out to this festival and see just how great it is and why it would be a national.
Well, first of all, it's an
even greater.
Yes, economic impact. So I don't see why you wouldn't, take it and utilize it for that, because we bring in a lot of money to the city and we move a lot of stuff through the system.
And you're talking about I would say 2 days because it's a 2-day festival, but you know, like I said, we know how to stretch out a party with the it's really a 3-day. And so you have a festival that is 2 days. It runs from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m., March 23rd, March 24th. What is the best ways for attendees, anybody who wants to come to navigate to that vendor's village to catch the cooking and judging?
Well, if you go to brsoulfoodfest.com, it explains itself there. There's a way to reach the vendor coordinator. There's a way to reach the cooking competition. You know, you can pretty much connect right there. brsoulfoodfest.com.
Okay, and you can literally download the forms, right? The contest right there, or
You can. Some of them are fillable. So you
Okay,
can
great.
yeah, so you might can even
fill it
do
out
that.
right there. Let me ask you a question. I'm going to wax a little sentimental here. I'm going to ask you to take a trip back to childhood. And what did the young Henry need that this festival now gives to others?
The first thing that young Henry needed when I was trying to really visualize all this stuff was to be able to see festivals that were controlled by us and influenced by us. And I didn't see that. As a matter of fact, you know, all the way through up until I started developing festivals and doing different things, it was very little of that. Now it's a lot of us, you know, because I think when one person does it, then everybody can see that it can be done, and they feel like, you know, if he can do it, I can do it. If she can do it, I can do it. If they can do it, I can do it. You know, and that's what I saw missing, you know, coming up and growing up. I just didn't see it at that level. But what I have seen now is a whole flux of people, and a bunch of people have come to me, and I've helped them start things, and you know, so that's what I saw, and that's what I see now, and I believe that that's the only part that was missing when I couldn't see it, you know. But now, a person that's 10 years old, they can see it. A person that's 20 years old, they can look at TV and say, "Wow, you know, okay,
Right.
yeah, that's what we need."
And so tell me a little bit about the sponsors. I mean, things like this don't just happen on their own. They're sponsors who are putting it together. Tell me about your wonderful sponsors who are making this possible. And I know you invest, you're not going to say it, you're humble about it, but you invest a lot of your own money into making this event.
Well, I'll say this. You can't start an event like this without investing your own money, first of all, because no one's going to believe in an idea that's this demographical, you know, pointed toward black and brown people and stuff like that. No one just going to walk up and say, "Hey, let me give you some money and you try this," or whatever. But what I did is I knew that, you know, I took the Wendy's approach: if you build it, they will come. And then I looked at, you know, like, who does this benefit the most? Where's the economic impact goes? And it goes straight to tourism, right? Mm-hmm. So I went to visit Baton Rouge first. And after I established the event and got it going, I found this lady, Stephanie, that was working over there. And she was an African-American woman, and we talked. And it was pretty easy because when she saw what I was doing, she made the pitch for us, and it's been going ever since.
Right.
So they're our largest supporter by far. They support us all the way. They give us the budget to do hospitality and food, and you know, and advertising, things of that nature. So that's our biggest sponsor. And then of course Blue Runner has been an interesting sponsor for us because you know, sometimes with those types of companies, they see a market that has already you know, been, we'll say tapped. Mm-hmm. They see, you know, like in other words, people are already buying Blue Runner beans off the shelf.
Right.
In the store. And you go to them and you say, "Look, man, you know, you guys like are a staple. You know, you guys are, Blue Runner is a staple." And they say, "Well, how so?" And, you know, they know, but they know their market share. They know who eat their beans, whatever. So, you know, that was a no-brainer for us to get Blue Runner involved. And, and they do some really cool things with us, especially with the beans, you know, because it's all about the red beans and white beans and all that stuff.
We all know what a Monday is like in Louisiana, in New Orleans, but it kind of goes around the state too, that Monday is the red bean staple
Now,
day.
let me say this. Let me say this. Like we can talk about the corporate sponsors because like Channel 2 and all of their stations have endorsed us.
Awesome.
Right. And they give us a big chunk of advertising dollars to work with. So whatever ideas we come up with, we can get out to the public, right? Like lightning speed. So that's not a problem. But the little small things, like we have these sponsors like Vernon Thomas, for example. Vernon is a positive force in the community. He's a serious lawyer. His dad was a serious lawyer. He's passed away now and was a good friend of mine. We have people like that involved at the nonprofit level that come in and make the magic for these, pieces of the pie. And what I mean by that is like, the pork and bean and wieners thing,
Yeah.
stuff like that. The mustard green eating contest. You have individuals in the community that see the importance. We've had, Attorney Radcliffe. These different attorneys, they love this kind of thing because they see the magic in making the community comfortable with culture,
And what I see here is something that is so essential and just beautiful to see it coming together to show that people at all levels have. You have everything from the music superstars to corporations to media entities like WBRZ, attorneys like Vernon Thomas and Attorney Radcliffe.
We got a guy that brings
community
out a fun
people.
House. We got a guy that literally bring out a bounce house for the kids. Larry from Fun Fun. They'll come over and just set up things, and kids and they're bouncing, and so these are the individuals though that bring cool stuff to the table. Right. Where you say, man, the corporate people make sure that the hospitality and the business is handled, but the individuals think about segments of the community that they could impact just with a little bit of happiness or a big old laugh about some type of food or something.
And this kind of makes you feel good because there's so much negativity. There's so many things that are going on in the world that we have to complain about, and these are very real things that are happening. But I think when we could focus on and see things like this, it reminds us that this is really who we are. We come together.
Absolutely, yeah.
And have you had a need for serious security or anything like how talk about the safety of the event and its track record with safety?
Yeah, we have our security, and when I say our security, hire a security team. Sometimes we've had the sheriffs involved. We've tried to stay away from policing the event because it turns into a thing where, if you bring in the policing aspect, then they look for something to address, as opposed to just securing the event where nothing negative happens. We haven't had any negative experiences. No one's been hurt. No one's been, no negativity, but it's hard to do that when you got blues, gospel, and good food. People normally busy eating or listening to music. So they're doing something,
laughing, talking.
Yeah.
This is wonderful. I'm excited about this event and the fact that it's remaining here in Baton Rouge. Hoping that our Lieutenant Governor's office will get on board.
I think that eventually that's where it will lead. We're hoping for that.
So we have here, just to reiterate, with the Soul Food Festival, the Baton Rouge Soul Food Festival. You have blues, soul, R&B, gospel, Christian, a vendor's village with a judged soul food cooking competition. And by the way, I heard that there are going to be some celebrity judges there.
There always is. I think one of the secrets is no matter how famous you are, you like soul food. So
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to, is it still open for people who want to come and, if you think you have the best whatever, bring your whatever.
Well,
Is there a cost? Like, what is the cost for
the way
for
it works,
entering?
The way it works, the guidelines are up on the festival's website, and you follow those, and it's categories and different stuff, and there's desserts and entrees and different things.
So we just go to brsoulfoodfest.com, find out how to enter, and from what I understand, there's going to be a first, second, and third place prizes awarded in each category. And I want to talk about briefly that lineup again, because I didn't list out all the names. So you have all stars like Irvin Maestro Foster, the My Better Half band, King Solomon, Princess Teha and Kelton, Inspire Harper, and this new edition this year, the Southern Blues Man, Adam Gabriel, and jazz guitarist, Rodney Gibson from Chicago. And then, of course, those returning favorites, right?
But the thing you have to remember now, at this stage, like the headliners and the people that you see on the paper, there's a lot more. 2 days, 3 days of music, there's a lot of people. But you have to go to the site to check out who's on it. They'll be posted up, their bios and names and what they do and all that kind of stuff. And there's always some favorites, and there's always some old timers and some cool people coming. So, it's expensive.
Well, Mr. Turner, we just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for this incredible event that adds to the culture, helping families to make memories for years to come. And again, we just want to tell you it's going to be at the main library, May 23rd, 24th, and go to the website if you need more information. And as always, remember that Coleman cares.
Count on Coleman. Count on Coleman. If your world is looking strange, you can count on Coleman for change.